Hello everyone, welcome back, Patrick here. I wanted to do a live stream for the Enphase earnings and Corsair. Unfortunately, I keep running into technical difficulties, so I'll just make a regular video. If you watch that train wreck, I'm really sorry. I'm doing my best, but there's always a problem, right? So you need to pay attention to these earnings though, because Enphase, as you guys know, I mentioned, is my company for 2022. I feel like it's going to be the best stock for 2022, and these earnings are absolutely phenomenal. So let's go over them. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you're benefiting, right? Because after hours, it is actually running right now. So let's get started. Quick side note, guys, for those of you not familiar, back in 2019 to early 2020, I actually worked in the solar industry, and this office was closed because of the pandemic, right? They were generating their leads through door knocking. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys this is that Enphase now is much different than it was back in 2019. Now the company has more products that they're offering, right? With the battery packs, and they recently bought Clipper Creek, which offers EV chargers. That is a very, very big value add for the company. Think about it this way. When a guy goes and door knocks and tries to generate a lead for solar installs, now they're going to actually be pitching the solar panels, but they're also going to be pitching the Enphase microinverters, the battery pack, and also the EV charger. So the more products the company has, the more the customer value is going to be per transaction. And that's why the company is becoming more profitable than they were in the past, right? And they're growing quarter after quarter, not just year over year. The fact that they have added value products like the battery packs that have an even higher margin than just the microinverters is why the company continues to be growing and why it's such a good investment in 2022. So I figured I would tell you about this, right? And keep monitoring it. Whenever they add more products, this is easy money for them, right? Because a solar installer has a very big incentive to promote those products, upsell them, and the company doesn't have to like do marketing or advertisement for those. Like the solar installers do the job for them. So keep that in mind. Alright guys, so my expectations for the company were sky high, and they did not disappoint. I'm going to show you what was expected of them. I like the company investing.com. You can see, you can quickly scan all the earnings if you guys want to use that little tip here. So if you go to Enphase, look at how they were expecting 399 million in revenue, and they actually generated 412 million, and they were expected 59 cents in EPS, and the company actually reported 73 cents in EPS. That is absolutely beautiful, right? It is almost perfect when it comes to earnings. So the company in the third quarter, when they did their earnings call, they had predicted that this quarter was going to be 390 million to 410 million in revenues. Well, if you actually look at that, it means that the company beat its own like top bracket of what they expected to do. And that is when you see a company that is firing on all cylinders. The supply is lower than the demand, right? They can't keep up with the demand. Currently, there are some supply chain issues, but the company is starting to resolve them. And I mean, they were able to actually pass on the extra costs to the customers, and that's why their EPS remains very high. So what more can you actually want from a company that is growing at a fast clip and at the same time being more profitable than they were before? I mean, it's the best of both worlds, and now the company is being really rewarded for that, right? So there was a nice little run up over the past couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden today after hours, look at how it is skyrocketing. It's up $20 after hours, about 14%. So quick tip for you guys, what I like to do is I don't buy my long positions right before the earnings. It's too risky, like especially right now when you have stocks that are going down sometimes up to 25%. It's just not worth it. So what I like to do to open long positions is do so like a couple weeks or a couple months after the earnings, when the spotlight is no longer on the company and no one's talking about it. So that's why I actually reopened my position in Enphase a few weeks ago, right, when everyone was selling it off. Around, well, I lowered my cost basis to 132. Right, so now the stock is going up, and it is probably going to continue to do really well in 2022. Out of all the stocks in the stock market, that's the one stock where I feel the most confident about, because as we were talking about earlier, the demand far outweighs the supply currently. So congratulations for you guys that actually predicted that they were going to beat on both 65%, right? Well done. Now, if we actually look at some of the details, right, that's where it gets interesting. So 412 million in the fourth quarter, as we were talking about, and 40.2% for the non-GAAP gross margin. So this is very, very important here. If you go down to this section right here, right, they have been able to maintain their margin despite the supply chain issues. That has been one of the things that was kind of a question mark about the company, is were they going to be able to like maintain this margin as the price of goods, the supplies actually increased tremendously, right? Well, they have been able to get more partnerships and more suppliers, and because of that, they have been able to keep their margin, and they have been able to pass on the cost to the customers. So net income is going up 84 million to 102 million right here. You have the EPS up 60 cents to 73 cents. And one thing I want us to pay attention to that's not really tracked in these earnings is going to be the stock-based compensation. This company, just like Palantir, uses stock-based compensation, and some people feel like that's dilution. It's not really dilution, but what it does is that when those shares unlock, some of the insiders either sell to raise cash or sell because they're forced to pay taxes on those, right? So I want you guys to help me monitor the unlocks for the stock-based compensation in this company over the next few years, while the while the company is growing very rapidly, 17% quarter over quarter. It's not a big issue, right? They are far outgrowing those unlocks. But if there's a period where the company is starting to slow down in its growth, that's when we'll have to really pay attention to that and be a little bit more worried about the share price. So in this quarter, they start to ship out their IQ8 microinverters. We've talked about this before. This allows them to create microgrids. So that's one more reason why the installers are going to want to promote the Enphase products. Microgrids means that customers are going to be able to use their solar panels when the utilities have power outages, which has traditionally been a big objection when you're trying to sell solar panels, right? People want to use it when the power is out, while in the past they couldn't. Now with the batteries they can, and with the microgrids they also can. So that's just one more reason why Enphase is a very popular product and will continue to be. So they acquired Clipper Creek, as we're talking about, in the fourth quarter. And then what I want us to look at is the outlook for 2022. So they don't have a full year guidance, and because of that, we can't really compare like what they expect for the entire year. Maybe they will touch on it during the conference call, which I'll have to listen to later. But when it comes to the first quarter, they expect 420 to 440 million in revenues, which is again growing quarter over quarter. So the stock should like do pretty well, right? As long as they can actually match those. So I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be able to beat the top bracket of their estimates this time again. Like you can assume that it's not totally a seasonal business. There's always going to be installs, but the next quarter is going to be from January to March, which, especially in the Northeast, it's kind of cold. A lot of people don't really like to do as much door knocking and lead generation during that time of the year. So there might be a little bit of a slowdown in the first quarter, which throughout the year is going to get better and better. So I hope you guys have a little bit more clarity on this company, Enphase. They are firing on all cylinders, continues to do really well, and maybe you guys can do your own research, and if you see a pullback in the next quarter, think about maybe opening a position. Again, not financial advice, I'm just here for entertainment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.